Hello, farmers. Pretty sure this is the beginning of a new episode. Otherwise, it's in real life a new day for me. Not sure how I'm going to plop all these together, but trying to make them each about a half hour long, regardless of what. Even thinking of trying to, I don't know, whatever. Um, Sitting there waiting for this thing to start. What the heck's that ringing? There's a church. So the church bell actually rings, which is. It stopped. That's weird. Anyway. I was going to fast forward some time, like I said with the last cut there, and realized, or thought about it, we haven't cultivated the field up here. So if I take the plow off, you can see nothing's happened with 34, and, we need to get that cultivated because this guy here doesn't. Or does he cultivate? No, he doesn't cultivate as he goes. This is how we're going to plant the corn. So if we go look in the garage, which is usually the easiest way to find the stuff you already own. It's this guy, Maestro. You can sewing machine. So it's not like this guy where additionally directly into the field, no cultivating. To be honest, this is a bit of a cheat, really. I mean, yeah, they can do like a final smoothing, kind of cultivating the small stuff, but if you plow up a packed field, there's no way you're running horsed over there at 12 miles an hour, breaking up all that sod, but not sod, but even just clumps of dirt. You're really going to want to cultivate it most of the time, I would think, anyway. But then again, nowadays there's a lot of no-till equipment out there, and I think it would be, by the way, corn I think is a crop that they actually plant. At least in my area, they planted a fair amount, and you can tell they just did the no-till where they just planted again right over last year's crop, let all that stuff wither over the winter, and then get down there and just sort of knock down whatever they knock down, and then, or maybe just the machine itself, the sower just knocks it down, I guess. Anyway, I was a pig farmer. I wasn't really much of a crop farmer, but in any event, let's get in here. Fire this bad boy up and go find our cultivator. We shoved it in this building right there ahead of us. Got plenty of fuel. Remembering right, it's in here, right? Where the heck did I put that thing? I didn't put it in here. Cultivator. All right, let's go to the garage and just look. So if you didn't know this, let's hit escape. And then there it is. So it's up there. It's up by the pigs. Oh. Very good. That's right. Now I'm remembering. It's been a day or two since I recorded. Forgive me. But this guy here is too long to fit in any of the buildings. That guy there is too long to fit in any of the buildings. The Astro 12 up by the pig farm. I didn't want to leave him half hanging out, looking stupid. It's not really that big a trip to come back and forth. Well, see, we're not. It's going to be days in game before we. That's the other thing. It's not like even if it was regular farm sim without the seasons, and you have that machine deterioration. I'm not sure how much we avoid it if we keep it underneath the shelter, but I don't know. I always like keeping the machines inside anyway. I think that's not always possible on a farm, but generally speaking, any vehicle you can keep under shelter was something we used to do. If it didn't fit in any of the buildings, then you wouldn't, but certainly Mother Nature can be tough when you leave things sitting outside over the years. Even a tough piece of machinery. Oh yeah, by the way, I have the mod that warns us. I think I mentioned this in another episode. So the collect your eggs thing. I hope that doesn't annoy anybody too much. But I don't intend to collect my eggs. See, I remember now that I knew it was up here, I remember where I put it. There she is. What are you? Look, it's not even stuck. Make it worse. Ah, there we go. All right, very good. Ooh. There we go. All right, now this room. Yeah, this one. I think you could get a pretty big harvest up there because I don't think most of the stuff on the left here is collidable. There's a couple trees right there, but let's go back a little bit. Let's make sure I'm not too close. This machine's not too bad for getting in there. So right now I'm finally rendering episode number 2. So I should have that out today. I'm recording this on a Saturday. Try to get it uploaded. I have a lot to do today. I got a new wheelbarrow wheel, even though it's snow covered out there for the moment. Get that fixed. Alright, I'm looking at our longest, straightest. You know, this field's one of those that really just doesn't have one, so I'm not sure if it's better to do it left to right or right to left. Maybe we should do it, I'm sorry, straight, like, you know, the way we're facing, the way we plowed it. That's up and down the hill. I mean, like I was saying before, I think it's more realistic to go side to side. So maybe we'll do that this time. 9. Let's turn on our GPS. And I don't know, did I put that in 34? I don't think I did. Let's see what happens. Alright, well, let's set up one to go on 34 here. I think 34 is just pretty much north-south. We'll come all the way back down. Let's see if I go to 1. Not sure. Let's go to 9. Yeah, see, that's... Well, let's set it up this way. I like to set it up. I'll set it up right here because then I can kind of see. For this field in particular, if we're just going to do, see how that's. If you move it over, back and forth a little bit. So we're not quite square with those. I don't think it's a little bit too far. I wish they would give you numbers on this thing one day. See, that looks pretty darn good. Then what we're going to do is we're going to turn it 90 degrees. And we're going to try it this way. How's that sound? I guess it doesn't really matter where we start. Let's start over here. I need to get this thing sized. In my younger days on the farm, and I mean in the farm sim, I used to really worry about the size there, like trying to stretch it out, like if I could get it that extra 0.1, but I found you end up missing spots, and it just doesn't, you know, like right now, in order to make up one lap, you know, by doing 0.1, like one stretch back and forth, we would have to do like 100 rows, right? Because we added 0.1 to the width of what it's, you know, kind of quote recommended. So in order to, you know, save going back and forth one time, you'd have to do 100 laps because you'd have to make up a whole 10 meters there. It's just not worth it. If this is the one, the width, especially with the bigger ones, I wish you could just type in right here. All right, now notice that we got the offset because we weren't perfectly straight. So I'm going to zero that offset here. And there we go. So we should be in good shape. Let's get lined up a little bit better. makes that much difference. Let's zoom out just a hair. Well, that's more than a hair, but using the trees. I'm not drunk. It's actually pretty early in the morning. Well, for me, I guess for some people it's very early in the morning, 6 a.m. Thought I'd catch some farm sim before anybody started calling or demanding. I gotta run into work, and so I want to fix that wheelbarrow wheel and find out what's stinking in the refrigerator. Alright, well, I think we're pretty well set up. I may, I don't know what I'll do with cutting it. As you guys can tell, I'm not very professional. That's alright, I'm having fun. I like recording. Kind of missed recording. Yeah, I think we made that. Yeah, I'll just keep going here. I was going to back up. But we'll just keep going. Yeah, well, you know what? Let me fast forward a little bit, I think, and then I'll come back and show you how this has been working out with this machine. How's that sound? And maybe we'll cut after that for the long boring in the middle part. All right. Be right back. If I remember to edit it. Okay, hope you caught all that in the fast forward. And not sure if we had music or not either, because again, it annoys me. I'll stop talking about it eventually. Well, maybe I won't, but you get the idea. So that's very much how I end up setting up the field usually. Especially with this thing, it seems to work out really well to get these two headlands established. This thing up and go down the end, and I'll kind of show you why. I can spin right around generally and get it, get right back going without hardly pausing. I mean, I might a lot of times you don't even have to take the cruise control off, but see, I worked that little corner just to get it out of the way while I was there, and we've got a good start on it. Now it's just a matter of back and forth. We'll be all cultivated up here, and I think that's truly, this time, I really think that's the end of the field work that we can do. And so the next thing we'll end up doing is cutting grass, which could be a couple days away. Well, it's going to be, because we're on day 2, so it's just going to do its first growth. And I think I'd like to wait until it does its second growth before we actually go out there and cut it, which should be, okay, today's the 2nd, should be like between the 6th and the 7th. So that's a good 4 or 5 days away before we'll be cutting grass. So watch this. This way, I like to come over, head over towards that line, and then try to, as you come around, put your back of your tractor right on that green line, and then there you go. So I can just keep doing that back and forth, and you know, you can obviously do the headlands afterwards, but I find even when I'm planting crops, which I know you would really not do in real life if you're actually planting, because you don't want to churn up that area. I'm not even sure that you would do it this way, because you dig into the tractor pretty well, or dig into the ground pretty well with the tractor, trying to make that sharp turn on loose soil. But again, this is not real life. This is really more tractor simulator than it is farm simulator. Hopefully, I haven't really seen it from cattle and crops, but they got a ways to go. Yeah, I'm really hoping somebody does more with soil. The soil is just the heart of a farm. I mean, you don't have many farms in Arizona because you don't have soil. You could have all the tractors in the world and combines and cultivators. And, yeah, I really should be lifting this thing up. Yeah, I'll lift it up next time. Just because if nothing else, you turn faster. Alright guys, well, let me cut it here and I'll be back when... When should I come back? Should I come back when... Should I come back after I fast forward, you think? I guess I can't. I wish you could answer. Alright, I'll come back after we're ready, when we're ready to cut the grass. How's that sound? Or if something else exciting like this cultivating comes up. Alright, see you in a bit. Well, here we are. I've spent quite a bit of time. Not sure. I mean, it takes quite a while to... What I did was I fast forwarded at 120 times speed using the 8 key and then slowed it down in the evening, and then you can hit Alt-N and a little window pops up and it says skip to dawn or the next morning, and that's what I did. So now it's 6:03. It's a few minutes. I just looked around. If we come up here, and really not all that much has happened. What did happen is we got to this green growth stage here, which I believe is the second one, and I think we can go out weeding still because we're in the earlier growth stages. I hope so. Otherwise, I made a little mistake. What I was also waiting for is this grass to turn to the orange as opposed to this yellowish, not the deep orange, but the middle ground there. And that's the second stage of growth, and it should yield us more grass per work. Now I'm just sort of curious. We could get out there and cut it, but I know we wouldn't get, the maximum from cutting it. So I think I'm going to hold off on the grass, which is fine. That's pretty realistic, I think, as far as timing goes. You don't, you're not cutting grass typically in April. I don't know what they consider mid-spring, but that's about what I consider mid-spring in real life. So in any event, what we do want to do is go out and get ourselves some equipment so that we can do the weeding. So let's go to the store and go to the tractors, and I have thought about this a little bit. What I want to do is get a tractor that can get the care wear tires. It was a few days ago I looked. So if we come here and hit select, the care wear, the narrow tires. So like this tire for... what I want to also do is get the most powerful one so that we can tend to use it for as long as possible. So if we come up here and do engine setup, we only have one, and this one's 163. This is one of my favorite tractors. The other thing I'd really like on this tractor we're about to get is the ability to attach a front end loader, just because I could see the benefit to having that around. We'll probably get a telehandler for handling the bales, but at the same time, it would be beneficial, I think, to possibly have one too. Again, just to not, just to have the option. So in any event, I didn't really look at this guy. This guy goes 166, 190, 166. So this Fendt Vario, which I think being a European tractor, we're on a European map, kind of makes some sense to me. If we... There we go. So this 240 seems to be about as big a tractor as we're going to get. If we go to we can get the narrow tires on it, and we can get the front end loader attachment. So it's a good chunk of our change, 203, well, really almost 204,000, but I think we should go ahead and buy it. So let's buy this bad boy. All right, there goes another 200 grand. Now we're down to $1 million, and we're not quite done yet. So we'll come back here and we'll look at the weeders. And, you know, this guy's a lot cheaper. This one I've never really used. I guess, I don't know. I don't really understand it fully. I mean, it pulls out weeds like this other one does. They both do that. But this one plants. So I really don't know why you would do that. Maybe somebody else can tell me, but like, in other words, if I'm going to plant grass, which doesn't really occur that often, you know, once you have a grass field, it stays set up. Now, the oilseed radish, fine, but I don't know, you can plant oilseed radish with the regular planter that you have. You don't, why would you want this, considering that this is 9 meters and this is 12, and this is less than half the price, so third the price almost. So anyway, we're going to go with this guy here because it covers more width, and yeah, and I don't really see the need to buy something that plants oilseed radishes. So let's buy this guy. Very good. And the last thing we probably want for this tractor is another wheel weight. Now, I don't think we need the biggest one, so let's, well, not that that's the biggest. Yeah, we definitely don't need anything that big. I think this will probably be fine. It's a fairly big little tractor. I don't imagine us having a big, huge problem with it. All right, so let's select this guy and buy it. And we will magically, come on, teleport. And let's go start her up. These tractors always look a little goofy with these wheels on them. But this will be a good tractor for, you know, whatever we need to do in as far as the field work. Like I said, I plan on, you know, even though it's not the fastest way to do it, for me, I don't mind being out there going back and forth in fields, or else I wouldn't play Farm Sim. There we go. I had to focus there for a minute. You know, I don't mind going back and forth, and this cuts out the cost of the actual fertilizer. Again, I'm not really sure. I know some crops would work well with a weeder, but I imagine other ones. How do you weed or wheat? You know, like, it just doesn't seem realistic. You'd think you pulled little wheat plants out. But something like a potato or maybe even tomatoes where you can run up and down and knock out a good amount of the weeds would make sense. But whatever, it's a fantasy game, like I've said before. I don't think it's the most realistic farming simulator. It may be a fairly realistic tractor driving simulator, but so I have hopes for cattle and crops. I haven't seen a lot of that in cattle and crops. I was watching a guy, Sim UK. I like his videos generally, and he does some farm sim, and he's done some cattle and crops, and I think he's generally right when saying that the controls are just horrible. And to be honest, I really won't probably play cattle and crops too much until they have a GPS mod. I haven't seen any way to do GPS in there. Nobody's really talking about it too much, but you know, I don't know. It seems like to some degree the guys who are making that kind of have I'll call it an attitude, that may be too strong a word, about, you know, they seem to have an attitude about how the game should be played. And I'm just a firm believer. Look, if you want to play Farm Sim to the umpteenth degree of realism, as much as you can make it, or cattle and crops for that matter, great. But if you just want to get out there and horse around like a teenage kid, and you are a teenage kid, that's great too, you know? Like, just go have fun. It's a game. It's your game. You're not hurting anybody. Okay, so let's get this guy unfolded. Let's go forward enough to... Yeah, see, I don't know. Did I wait too long? We'll see very shortly here if we heard anything. But let's turn on our GPS and let's come over to our setup. Did we do a field 15, I hope? I forget. No. do much of anything, did I? As far as saving things goes. So let's try to get this guy straight like we have in the past. It's not quite straight. Not sure that makes that much difference. Too far that way. That looks pretty good. Alright, so let's hit A. And for now, we could always save over it if we don't like what we did here. I'm just going to save that as field 15 set up. And let's hit V. Let's just do a little section here. Let's see if I'm really not getting it. I'm missing a spot there. Kind of do a headland. I don't think I'll do 2 headlands with this thing, but let's just hit escape real quick and see what our fertilization. Did we do anything? Yes, we did. So I don't think it says in the beginning stages, and I think that makes a lot of sense. It'd be kind of hard to run a machine through full crops, but yeah, we are fertilizing, so I will go ahead with this, and we can do the grass fields too. And let's zoom out just a little bit more. And like I said, I'll go around, do a headland on this, kind of like I do with the other fields, and move this guy over just for the sake of it. But I don't think it really makes too much difference. I really want to get this next. Let's go right there. There you go. Made me feel better, if nothing else. Again, I'm not sure that it... But when you get a nice square field, I think lining up makes a little more difference. I mean, I guess you could, save it to its perfection. So yeah, speaking of cattle and crops, I hope that the game turns out to be an improvement. And the thing that I hope to see the most out of it is, like I said before, soil. Like, it's a farming game. I understand the fun is a lot of the fun is driving the tractors around, but for me, after that gets a bit old, to me the biggest challenge is keeping your soil good. So if we could ever have something where you had, to choose different kinds of fertilizers, and I know Farm Sim made some attempts at such a thing with the soil mod. That wasn't really Farm Sim guys, but Decker. But I think Decker's working on cattle and crops, so I'm hoping they're coming up with something along those lines. And then the other thing I'd like to see is like soil compaction. The reason that you plow, one of the reasons that you plow, besides getting rid of whatever's leftover chaff or anything else that's on the field, is to loosen up the soil. You want that soil the right compaction so that it's kind of light and fluffy, if there is such a thing as light and fluffy soil versus hard packed dirt. And I think that some crops that's more and less important, and I don't think maybe you could get into soil erosion, and I think also the lighter soil holds the water a little better, and anyway, you get the idea. But it would be great if you could have, like, depending on the area, not just a climate change, but if you live in Pennsylvania like I do, we have some really good soil, generally speaking, for farmland. We don't have the greatest climate, just because it's a little shorter growing seasons than down south, but certain regions have really, really good soil. I mean, they don't farm in Montana, and I mean, it's part because of the climate, but their soil is just poor. And they do a lot of farming, but they don't, not like other areas, Iowa and Ohio, Indiana. And I don't mean to leave anybody out, Kansas. I mean, they all have decent soil. The problem out in the Midwest is it's just that the water is just becoming a bigger issue for them out there. I don't think that's going to turn out too well for everybody, but who knows? You can keep your fingers crossed. All right, well, I'm going to cut the video as much because I need to get on with real life, and I think I'm just going to come out here and weed. You know, if you want to picture me doing all of this, I would say just keep repeating the last thing. Turn the volume down so I don't say the same thing over and over again. And I'll just get out here and get, you know, pretty much everything I can weeded, which will be the grass fields. It'll be all of our crop fields, and then that should take up a fair amount of today's time as far as in game. And you can see our soil temperature is up to 46. It needs to get up to 50 for planting corn. But I have a sneaking suspicion, we're on day 7 there, that as long as that temperature is over 51 by the time it goes from day 9 to day 1, as far as the first day of summer, I think we'll be fine on planting that corn. I think it's most likely a calculation, but like I said, I planted corn early before, and it seemed to work just fine, so I don't know what to tell you. Alright, well, like I said, let me cut the video there, get on with real life stuff, and then I'll just come back at my own leisure later on and finish off fertilizing all these fields. I think I got this spot. A little hard to see, that shadow. Alright, well, anyway, I hope you guys have a good day. And, well, I don't know, maybe I'll be back in a minute. Maybe I'll cut the video here. Time will tell. Alright, talk to you guys later.